On an unusually quiet morning in early 2024, satellites orbiting above the South China Sea detected a pattern the world was never meant to see. 18 Chinese warships, perfectly synchronized, moved in a formation so precise it looked choreographed. The ocean beneath them rippled in long silver trails as the fleet pushed forward like a single organism. No communication leaked. No announcement was made. No Western intelligence agency received a warning. But for those who understood power, that silent formation was louder than any explosion. At the very same hour, thousands of kilometers away, Russian missile brigades rolled into forested areas long abandoned after the Soviet era. Satellite analysts saw the movement, but could not identify the purpose. Trucks vanished under thick canopies. Camouflage nets shimmered under the winter light. It was not an attack. It was not a drill. It was a message, a reminder that power never goes dormant. It only waits for its moment. In the Middle East, U.S. command centers quietly elevated their internal alert level after an unusual spike in cyber intrusion attempts. Oil routes faced small but coordinated drone disruptions. Militias aligned with different global actors tested boundaries. Intelligence cables described the mood as uneasy stillness, a world holding its breath. Something invisible moving beneath the global surface. Most people went about their day unaware. They attended classes, opened shops, scrolled through social media, made breakfast. But governments noticed. Think tanks noticed. Markets definitely noticed, because financial markets always detect seismic shifts before the public does. Whenever the world approaches a transition point, the signs appear first in places most people never look. What we are living through now is not sudden chaos. It is something else entirely. Something slower, deeper, and far more consequential. A shift in the center of gravity of global power. For the first time since World War II, for the first time since the rise of the American-led order, and for the first time since the Cold War ended, the world is no longer stable, predictable, or centered around one dominant power. A new era is forming, not announced by leaders, not written in treaties, not declared in speeches, but shaped silently by economic fractures, currency decisions, supply chain rewiring, demographic shifts, climate pressure, technological leaps, and new regional power blocks. We are stepping into what historians will later call a new world order, not the conspiracy theory version whispered in online rabbit holes, but the real geopolitical transition that occurs when the old system can no longer support the weight of a changing world. The question is not, is a new world order coming? The question is, has it already begun? Because world orders do not change with a dramatic bang. They tilt. Quietly, slowly, elegantly. And then, one day, the tilt becomes too steep to ignore. That is where we are now, inside the tilt. Every past empire believed its dominance was permanent. Rome thought its borders would last forever. The Ottomans believed their control stretched unbreakably across continents. The British Empire considered itself the eternal power of the seas. Every empire collapses not because of war, but because it gradually becomes too stretched, too confident, too slow, too indebted, too divided, too distracted. Meanwhile, rising powers grow faster, innovate faster, unify faster, and pursue long-term strategic plans with absolute patience. Today, the United States stands where Britain stood in 1910. Still immensely powerful, still wealthy, still militarily unmatched, still culturally influential, but overstretched, politically divided, economically pressured, and challenged by rising competitors who are younger, hungrier, and far more strategic. America is not collapsing, but it is no longer standing alone. China rises not with noise, but with method. While the U.S. spent 2 decades in Middle Eastern wars, China built roads, ports, factories, megacities, naval fleets, space programs, digital currencies, and manufacturing dominance across every sector. They lifted hundreds of millions out of poverty, expanded influence across Asia, Africa, Latin America, and the Middle East, and constructed a parallel network of global trade through the Belt and Road Initiative. Their strategy is long-term, methodical, and relentless. Their ambition is not regional, it is planetary. But China is not alone in its rise. The true transformation comes from the emergence of multiple rising powers at the same time: India, Brazil, Turkey, Indonesia, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Nigeria, South Africa. These nations are young, resource-rich, ambitious, numerically large, and tired of Western control. They are forging new alliances, forming new blocs, and reshaping global economics. This is why BRICS has become one of the most influential signs of the new order. What began as a simple economic term is now a geopolitical alternative. With the inclusion of Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Egypt, Iran, and Ethiopia, BRICS represents nearly half of humanity, massive natural resources, the world's most important energy routes, key industrial hubs, and rapidly growing economies. BRICS is building not only alliances, but institutions. Most importantly, BRICS is building alternatives to the Western financial order. And if there is one truth in geopolitics, it is this: control the currency, and you control the world. For 75 years, the US dollar has been the backbone of global trade. It gave the US unprecedented leverage. It allowed the US to sanction nations, control global banking, influence markets, and finance its own government with remarkable ease. But today, the cracks in this system are widening. China and Russia trade in yuan. India buys oil without the dollar. Saudi Arabia sells energy in multiple currencies. BRICS pushes a digital settlement system. Sanctioned nations bypass US control. Global reserves slowly diversify. The dollar is not collapsing, but for the first time it is being challenged. This is how world orders shift. Not through dramatic overthrow, but through slow erosion. Financial influence is just one dimension of the shift. Technology is the second. In this century, power belongs to those who control chips, data, AI, quantum systems, satellite networks, and cyber infrastructure. The future will not be dominated by armies, but by technological ecosystems. The semiconductor war is the heart of this race. Taiwan produces the chips that run the modern world. China tries to break free from US technology dependence. The US restricts chip exports to slow China's rise. The Netherlands, Japan, South Korea, India all become battlegrounds in the chip race. Whoever controls chips controls AI. Whoever controls AI controls the future. AI is no longer a tool. It is a force multiplier. It shapes economies, controls logistics, guides militaries, influences societies, and rewrites the future. The United States leads in advanced AI models. China leads in surveillance and mass deployment. India leads in digital public infrastructure and population-scale systems. The Gulf leads in AI capital and data center expansion. The AI race is not simply about innovation. It is about global dominance. Because AI will control the systems that control the world. At the same time, cyber warfare becomes the invisible battlefield. Power grids, airports, hospitals, banks, everything can be attacked silently. Cyber attacks require no soldiers, no invasions, no borders. They can paralyze a nation in seconds. North Korea, Russia, China, the US, Iran, Israel, all develop cyber arsenals. A third silent battlefield emerges: space. Satellites run communication, navigation, internet, banking, weather prediction, and military targeting. Space is the new high ground. Space is the new war frontier. Space is the new economic territory. The US dominates with the Space Force. China races aggressively with parallel satellite networks. India emerges as a low-cost, high-efficiency space leader. Private companies like SpaceX have more satellites than most governments on Earth. Control space. Control Earth. The internet itself is splitting. No longer one global system, but multiple digital civilizations. China's firewalled universe. Russia's isolated RuNet. The West's Silicon Valley empire. India's sovereign digital model. The Gulf's data-driven architecture. Africa's emerging digital maps. The digital world is becoming a battleground of ideologies and power. And beneath all this, a deeper crisis brews. Climate instability accelerates. Storms intensify. Heat waves spread. Water scarcity rises. Crop failures increase. Migration waves form. Political instability follows. Climate becomes a geopolitical force. Demographics shift dramatically. Aging nations shrink. China, Japan, Korea, Europe. Young nations rise. India, Africa, Southeast Asia. Energy transitions fracture alliances. Oil kingdoms diversify. Renewables reshape economics. Critical minerals become the new oil. The world splits into blocks. Economies fragment. Trust in institutions collapses. Narratives become weapons. Propaganda becomes strategic. Truth becomes subjective. We are not stepping into chaos. We are stepping into transformation. The old world order is not collapsing in flames. It is being replaced quietly, steadily, structurally. The US remains powerful, but no longer absolute. China rises, but faces strategic limits. India ascends, neutral, balanced, essential. Russia disrupts, because disruption is its strength. Europe adapts, but cannot dominate. The Middle East reinvents itself, with money as its weapon. Africa awakens, becoming the prize all powers chase. BRICS grows, creating alternative worlds. Currencies diversify, weakening dollar monopoly. Technology dictates, replacing military dominance. This is the new world. Not one empire, but many. Not one currency, but several. Not one internet, but 5. Not one power center, but a network of shifting poles. Not one narrative, but a war of narratives. Not one future, but competing futures. And we are living inside the transition, not watching it from outside. This is not a collapse. It is a rearrangement, a redistribution, a rewiring. The storm is not coming. The storm is here. And the next chapter of the New World Order will decide the fate of nations, economies, currencies, and ordinary people who will feel its impact long before they understand its origin. Battles, the AI shift, and the future humanity is walking into, whether it is ready or not. As the old world order fades further into the background, the forces driving the new era begin revealing themselves with sharper edges. Power no longer expresses itself through grand declarations or visible dominance. It hides inside supply chains, inside currencies, inside data centers, inside satellites, inside ideology, inside networks, and inside the minds of billions. The world today is not being ruled by armies or by borders. It is being shaped by systems most people never see, yet depend on every moment of their lives. The quiet rise of BRICS is one of the clearest signs of this transformation. What was once dismissed as a symbolic grouping has evolved into a parallel world system, a system that challenges the global financial architecture built after World War II. The West underestimated BRICS because it did not see what was forming beneath the surface. It did not see the long-term frustration of emerging nations. It did not see the fatigue of being dependent on Western institutions. It did not see the ambitions of the global South, nations with young populations, rising economies, vast resources, and a new sense of ownership. BRICS is not about overthrowing the US. BRICS is about outgrowing the West. When Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Egypt, Iran, and Ethiopia joined, BRICS transformed from a discussion group into a global counterbalance. These nations control energy routes, critical minerals, shipping lanes, food corridors, and emerging markets. They form the backbone of the next century's economic map. And for the first time in modern history, the global South is not asking for permission. It is demanding respect. The West once dictated global finance. BRICS now negotiates. The West once controlled global energy. BRICS now influences it. The West once shaped global narratives. BRICS now challenges them. But what makes BRICS truly powerful is not the nations themselves. It is the currency shift they represent. In the old order, the US dollar was the foundation. Every major trade, especially oil, flowed through it. This gave America extraordinary leverage. The ability to sanction nations, the ability to freeze assets, the ability to control economic lifelines. But today, that monopoly is weakening, not because the dollar is failing, but because alternatives are rising. China's yuan spreads quietly through global trade. India conducts record-level rupee settlements. Saudi Arabia considers multiple currency deals. Russia aggressively de-dollarizes. Brazil promotes South-South trade without Western banks. BRICS works on digital settlement systems that bypass SWIFT entirely. A currency war is not loud. It does not begin with explosions. It begins with options. Once the world learns it can trade without the dollar, the psychological shift becomes irreversible. Currencies do not collapse overnight. They erode gradually through millions of decisions made quietly by central banks, oil exporters, importers, and financial hubs. This is how the New World Order forms, slowly, subtly, consistently. But currencies are only one battlefield. Technology is the next. And technology is far more dangerous. Artificial intelligence is no longer a tool. It is infrastructure. The nations that dominate AI will dominate the world not through force, but through influence and control. It predicts, analyzes, manipulates, recommends, directs, filters, creates, destroys, and reconstructs reality. It understands humans better than they understand themselves. Whoever controls AI systems controls human behavior. China uses AI to manage populations, monitor dissent, coordinate industrial growth, optimize military operations, and strengthen its political model. The United States uses AI to dominate tech companies, shape global platforms, and maintain digital hegemony. India uses AI to scale governance for over 1 billion people, making its digital model one of the most influential in the world. The Gulf nations use AI to build futuristic cities and diversify from oil. AI is no longer a field of research. It is the new battlefield of ideology. The future war will not begin with missiles. It will begin with data manipulation, with deepfake presidents, with synthetic voices giving false commands, with hacked satellites, with AI-generated panic, with algorithmic warfare. This is why nations are racing to secure semiconductor dominance. Chips are the new oil. Chips are the new steel. Chips are the new ammunition. Every machine, every weapon, every system, every network depends on them. The most advanced chips come from Taiwan, making it the most dangerous flashpoint on Earth. China sees Taiwan not only as territory, but as technological survival. The US sees Taiwan as the last line of technological defense. This is why the Taiwan Strait is now the most militarized waterway in the world. This is why warships move there like chess pieces. This is why satellites constantly monitor the region. This is why global markets panic at every small incident. A conflict over Taiwan would not be regional. It would collapse global supply chains. It would freeze tech industries. It would trigger economic depression. It would reshape civilization. And yet, the semiconductor war is only one part of the technological confrontation. The internet itself is fracturing. For 30 years, humanity believed in one global digital world. But now, the internet is breaking into multiple realities. China's controlled system, Russia's isolated system, the West's corporate system, India's sovereign public system, the Gulf's engineered digital architecture, Africa's emerging hybrid networks. This split will define the next century. The world is no longer connected. It is separated by digital borders. The next frontier of power is Americans. Satellites are the backbone of modern life. Without satellites, planes cannot fly, ships cannot navigate, phones cannot connect, banks cannot operate, militaries cannot function. Space is not optional. It is existential. This is why nations are rushing to claim orbit. This is why anti-satellite weapons are being developed. This is why lunar missions have turned aggressive. This is why private companies like SpaceX have more global influence than many governments. Space will determine who controls Earth. But while nations battle for dominance in currency, technology, and space, they face a threat far older and far more unstoppable: demographics. Power comes from people. Workforce. Youth. Population energy. Human capital. Many powerful nations are quietly entering demographic collapse. China's population is shrinking. Japan's is shrinking. South Korea's is shrinking. Europe is shrinking. Russia is shrinking. Birth rates have fallen below recovery level. Workforces shrink. Economies weaken. Military recruitment drops. Innovation slows. The future belongs to nations that still have youth. India, Nigeria, Pakistan, Indonesia, Ethiopia, the Philippines, Egypt. These nations will shape global labor, consumption, migration, and geopolitics. The center of the world is shifting southward, toward the young. And yet youth alone is not enough. Climate instability shapes the future even more aggressively. Heat waves destroy crops. Floods erase cities. Droughts collapse agriculture. Storms reshape coastlines. Glaciers melt. Water becomes scarce. Millions migrate. Climate becomes the new dictator of geopolitics. Nations will not fight for ideology. They will fight for water, food, land, and survival. Resource wars will redefine borders. Food insecurity will trigger unrest. Oil will matter less. Minerals will matter more. Lithium, cobalt, copper, nickel, graphite, rare earths. These minerals will power electric vehicles, satellites, AI systems, renewable energy grids, and advanced manufacturing. Africa holds the largest reserves. China controls the processing. The West scrambles to rebuild supply chains. The scramble for minerals will be ruthless, diplomatic on the surface, cutthroat underneath. All of these forces, currency shifts, AI warfare, chip battles, internet fractures, space races, demographic waves, climate pressure, resource scarcity, create an environment where traditional governance becomes obsolete. Nations built for the 20th century cannot survive the demands of the 21st. This is why global politics feels chaotic. Not because the world is collapsing, because the world is upgrading. The old systems are failing. The new systems are forming. And humanity is caught in the space between. The United States will remain powerful but must share leadership. China will rise further but will not dominate globally. India will become the world's balancing force. Europe will shrink but regulate aggressively. The Middle East will gain unimaginable financial power. Africa will become the demographic engine of the planet. BRICS will become the second global economic architecture. And humanity will live inside a world that is not led by one nation, but by interconnected systems of money, data, technology, climate, and supply chains. This is not a world order built on dominance. It is a world order built on interdependence. A world too connected to be ruled by one. A world too divided to be unified. A world too fast to be controlled. A world too fragile to be ignored. The new world order is not coming. It is here. And every individual will feel it. Through prices, opportunities, migrations, job shifts, currency shifts, political changes, technological dependence, digital identities, and global events that no longer stay far away. This era demands clarity. Because clarity is the new power. Those who understand the shift will navigate it. Those who ignore it will be overwhelmed by it. The world is being rewritten, not suddenly, not violently, but structurally, silently, relentlessly. And the future will belong to those who adapt their thinking to a world where power is invisible, influence is algorithmic, and empires rise not with armies but with networks. The storm is not a warning. The storm is the path, and humanity is already walking through it.